right, I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting of October 21st, 2024. And we'd like to welcome you to the meeting of the Buchanan Community Schools Board of Education. All of our meetings have been posted in all of our buildings, in our central office, on our website, and so on. And there is an agenda for tonight's meeting that is on the back table. If you have not got one, please pick one up so you can follow along with us as well. Also note that our members on the Board of Education here, our trustees, do receive a packet of the agenda ahead of time so that they can review the materials, but also be prepared to fulfill their office with being able to ask questions and so on. Of course, this is the meeting of the Board of Education, and it's not in public for the purposes of conducting other business other than the school district's business, and so on. The board does value public comment, and we do have that in the agenda as it relates to educational issues. And again, we thank you for your support from our Board of Education.
And then I left.
Okay. They're fixing their thing over there. As we move right along, let us stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Moving on to item C, roll call.
Mr. Carlson.
Here.
Ms. Brackett.
Here.
Ms. Ryder.
Here.
Ms. Lesh here. Dr. Carlin.
Here.
Ms. Berry.
Here.
And Dr. Burnett.
Here. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda.
I move the agenda for the board meeting of October 21, 2024 be adopted as written with the addition of L8 Capital Project Fund Resolution.
Support.
Very good. And please note there is an amendment in the agenda for the capital project fund resolution, which will come under item L8. So with that said, roll call.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Brackett.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item E, recognition of visitors. Again, we'd like to welcome you all to our Board of Education meeting. Anything else to add?
No, just welcome everyone.
Very good. All right, moving on to item F, points of pride.
Yeah, we're excited to have to be able to celebrate our middle school boys and girls cross country regional champs, and luckily tonight the principal is here of the middle school as well. So that was really cool. Both teams won,
Yeah.
and I believe Scott's daughter is like the all-around girls champ. So
Yeah.
keeping it there. And then our varsity men's and women's cross country are our conference champs.
All
So
right.
we're also
Very good.
celebrating them tonight.
Awesome. Let's give them a round of applause.
Yeah.
It's great to have students that are students and athletes at the same time. So, moving on to Buck staff appreciation for October.
Yep. So we have the nominees included are Abby Dillon, third grade teacher, Anna Smith, administrative assistant to the assistant principal and athletics, Brian House, custodian, Dawn Van Dyke, Ottawa special education teacher, Elizabeth Johnson, Ottawa administrative assistant, Haley Sater, third grade teacher, Jared Hudenstein, outdoor educator, coordinator, Jessica Hassey, Buchanan Middle School interventionist, Jessica Maurer, elementary PE teacher, Lauren Powers, fifth grade teacher, Melissa Frost, Buchanan High School science teacher, Michael Babcock, Moccasin principal, Nate Will, transportation supervisor, Sandy Emmerich, Ottawa interventionist, Shannon Jeffries, sixth grade science teacher, Tammy Regglesworth, Payroll and Accounts Payable Clerk, and Stacy Dennison, Ottawa Elementary Principal. And the October winner is Miss Dennison from Ottawa Elementary, and I'm going to read where I had it. What did I do with it? It's right here. What was submitted on her behalf. So Stacy Dennison is more than just an administrator. She makes it a point to have a true relationship with her students and their families. Stacy is incredible hands-on and nurturing with her students. She is frequently seen holding the hands of a little one or kneeling down next to a child, helping them through a rough time. Stacy can often be found working late into the evening and even on the weekends to make sure special events are memorable and go smoothly. For example, I remember how she worked so hard to organize and decorate the school for Christmas and make it a surprise for staff and students. She really wanted it to be a winter wonderland for them when they walked in. The same can be said for Halloween, back-to-school night, field day, and etc. She definitely cares so much for staff and students alike. I don't know how she does it all, but she does. On behalf of the Board of Education and Administration of Buchanan Community Schools, we thank you for your service and encourage you to keep up the great level of achievement and service to our district. Congratulations.
Congratulations. All right, come on down. We have
I think I shut my phone off.
awards or gifts for you.
I am going to take a picture if I can get it back on.
Counterfeit money.
My phone's on me, sorry. Get ready, my phone's taking a little time.
It's probably gonna stick up. Congratulations.
I know, I'm like, get those sent.
Okay. Very good. All right, moving on to superintendent and department reports. Anything else to add?
Nothing to add. I know our principals make sure each month that you guys are updated on everything that is happening within their buildings. So we definitely appreciate it because all of those together equals what's happening in the entire district. So very informative information.
Very good. Moving on to presentations, and I think Shelby from the middle school has a presentation first.
Hello. Any opportunity I have to brag about the middle school, I am quick to take it. So I am excited to be here tonight. Thank you for having me. You may hear some bad things about middle school kids. You know, they traditionally just get the bad rep. They're in the middle, you know, the middle child, right? But one thing is for sure, the middle school in this community is rocking and rolling. And this year we have had a wonderful focus on grit. We are part of the Hill Project this year. 2.0 is the Hill Project 2.0. And so I'm going to be talking about that this evening. Maybe. There it goes. So a little bit of background for you on this. Ottawa and Moccasin also have been part of the Hill Project, so you might have heard of that before. And they were part of the first round, which had to do only with literacy. So the Hill Project is something from Western Michigan, and it's a high-impact leadership for school renewal project. It's grant-funded. There's about currently right now in the 2.0, I believe there's 76 districts in there. And so we are part of the 2.0 from we started last year, we're in it this year, and then we will also be in it for next year. With the 2.0, luckily we are able to focus on anywhere within literacy, math, or social emotional learning. And that really opens up the spectrum a little bit to take a look at how we can create systematic and sustainable change. You can see the school renewal cycle there that is created from the Hill Project. And so you start off by taking a look at your school and your vision, and then you look at your current state profile, what's going on in your building. You find some growth targets based on areas of strength. That's one of my favorite things about it. It's all strength-based, so focusing on what you do well and helping to continue to strengthen that to make it better. And then you go into phase 4, which is progress monitoring. How are things going? And then 5, which is reflection and renewal. How have things been? What are we going to do to create the gold standards so that this now becomes part of just our culture at BMS? So, like I said, we started this last year, and we have Mark Tompkins as our facilitator, and the great thing about that is he was who was at Ottawa and Moxon. So he's very familiar with the Buchanan community, very familiar with the other schools have already done. And then I have 4 amazing Hill team members, Erin Kratke, Missy Lyon, Paula Tusek, and Angel Witzel. And the huge thing about Hill is it's helping create leadership and cultivate leadership, not just with me. I am not the one doing the work. We are all doing the work together. And so it's a lot of hearing a lot of voices from staff. So we started last year with Mark Tompkins with a collaborative staff survey. And it was really fun because normally if you give a survey out, it's really boring, bunch of questions, right? You don't even know if the strongly agree, like those scales are just a little bit confusing. You're not really sure how you're supposed to answer that. But what he did is he led groups of staff members through a series of questions, and they supplied answers. So some of the questions were, why are we an effective school? How does your school administrator and your district administrator support you to be better? When do you see students most engaged and excited about learning? So we took all of that information and combined with our current state profile, which the teachers put together, not me, the Hill team did, and they looked at our, of course, assessment data, what we do and engagement-wise activities throughout the school. I'm talking dances, clubs, all the things. We looked at our curriculum, our MTSS, and then our PLC work. And we found our strengths. So our big 3 strengths were teamwork, support, and caring. I can't say that enough. Like if you step into our building, you're gonna see that right away. We are very data-driven. We are focused on student growth and helping them get to their goals. And then we also have a ton of hands-on things happening every day in the classroom, a lot of school events, choices for kids, and projects. And so we took a look at those strengths and combined it with something that Mark Tompkins helped create called sagelist.org. And let me tell you, if you've ever tried to think about a menu of all things education, that's that Sage List. It's incredible. There's so many resources there. Let's say you want to do something with classroom discussion and questioning. You go to that on that website, and it'll give you 20 articles, 5 videos, a whole bunch of other resources. It's very, very, very teacher-friendly and hands-on. So we went to that and we looked at the biggest bang for our buck. So if you think about effect size, that is going to be the impact that whatever you're doing is going to have on students. And of course, we want to help them achieve, right? And so we ended up choosing student self-efficacy and growth mindset. It has a 1.33 effect size, which, what does that even mean, right? Basically, in a nutshell, that means that in 1 year, they can make 4 years worth of growth. Wow. If we are following and doing all these things. And so if we're student growth focused, here we go. And if you think about it, no matter what grade you teach, no matter what subject you teach, no matter if you're a student or a staff member, self-efficacy and growth mindset is very important, and it can be broad across all those areas. So that's what we rolled with. We took the team -1 who was camping to the Hill Summit in Grand Rapids, and we really dove in pretty hard into self-efficacy and growth mindset, and then all of a sudden we realized that we should focus on grit, and you'll see why in a little bit. And so the best thing about this is we could build it right into what we already have going on in our school. So we are already really strong with our advisory. We have a 30-minute advisory every morning, and we were able to talk about grit and build in those lessons. So students started with, we created a calendar for the teachers. All they had to do was just look at the calendar, click on the links to show videos, and just follow those lesson plans for them. They didn't really have to do anything extra. So the students did a little grit scale score, which was interesting. We did explicit lessons on grit. They have grit guides, and even like all adults have them, actually, that we write in every Wednesday. We did a grit poster contest, and we've been doing a lot of gritty activities. The pictures there are from when students had to try to put numbers in a certain way to get them all to add up to something. And they had to pause and then reflect on how hard it was and all the things just to try to get a little bit gritty. And our grit poster contest was how we kind of kicked off everything. We explicitly taught students about this rubric here that was created by the Hill team. And so when they created their individual sketches, they kind of knew exactly what we would be looking for based on that rubric. After that, we did a museum walk where all the kids in each advisory class got to kind of see everybody's examples and what they were thinking. And then they got together into teams to create final products. And then they were able to go look at their whole grade level. So if you were a 5th grade student, you got to see all of the ones made in 5th grade. And then they got to vote based on the rubric, the ones that they thought should be first place or second place or third place and so on. And those are just some examples of some of the things that the students came up with. They're all over our building, and these children are just, they're so talented, and I'm so very, very, very proud of them. In addition to the poster contest, everybody in middle school wants relevance. They always want to know, how does this apply to me? Why am I talking about this? What was even the point? And we were able to make a gritty connection to the Lions, the Detroit Lions. So that's how we sucked in a lot of students to this, because finally the Lions are doing really awesome, right? And so we actually,
Go Lions!
woo, go Lions. We were actually able to, there was something that we found that talked about, obviously, Coach Campbell and then a couple of the other players that are on the team and how they show these different attributes of grit. And it's funny because now everybody's, did you see the Lions game? And even kids who don't care about football, because we're talking about grit, they're into it, right? So that was just a really huge thing. We're hoping eventually to work with our videographer to send a video to the Lions organization to hopefully maybe get not even something, but just like a, hey, good job, keep it up in the tiny little Buchanan. We see you all the way in Detroit. So after that, that was all round phase 1, 2, and 3, right? We got into the progress monitoring of 4, and I sent out a survey to teachers, and they did this very similar to that first survey, where they were in groups being able to talk about things instead of just filling out a boring form. And so those are just some of the things that students were seeing from students. We're seeing it happen. Kids are getting gritty. They're not giving up as easily. They'll talk to each other about grit. They'll talk to us adults about grit. They're very quick to hold me to my grit goal, which is keeping my desk clean, and they will call me out when it is not. Happened today. And so it's really fun to see how this has taken off. It is really contagious. We talked earlier, or Superintendent Robinson talked about our regional champs cross-country team. They showed grit all season, and they came out as champions. And our art classes, they connected to grit across content areas every year. They do something a little bit different with Dias de los Muertos, and they made sugar skulls. But this year they added in tombstones of qualities that you get rid of if you have grit. So you would see RIP fear, because you don't want to have fear anymore. Bully be gone. Here lies quitting. Reject, regret, and then of course you see grit never dies. And it was just really neat to see how this has gone from something that we thought would just be advisory lessons to now it's just school culture. It's pretty great.
Very cool.
And it even was on somebody's homecoming outfit, which I thought was pretty awesome. So what's next for us with grit is students are actually filling out already a grit conference form that the parents will get at parent-teacher conferences, talking about what they feel about grit, how they show grit, and what they need to be able to be gritty. And then we're going to, of course, hit in phase 5, where we get to celebrate how we're doing, create the gold standard, and on Wednesday I will be headed to Kalamazoo for another Hill Summit to kind of think of next steps and how we can keep moving this forward, and then what we will be doing next as a next round. And then later in the year, we will be doing rounds where people from the Hill Project all over the state can be invited to come to our school to see what we're doing. If you would like to come, you of course are welcome. Just reach out to me and I can get you those dates. The date is to be determined, but we'd love to have you. And then I couldn't do this without talking about, really quick, something that happened the other day. So if you don't know me, I hate bugs. It is not a thing that is pleasant for me, and the whole school knows about it. But we have a science class right now that is talking about ecosystems and symbiosis and decomposers, and they have beetles, and you can see by my face how thrilled I was. But Superintendent Robinson jumped right in and held the beetle, and then I was like, well, I can't look like a chicken in front of my boss. And so I held said beetle. I was not thrilled, but I did it. And then afterwards, I was like, you guys know what that showed? And they were like, grit, you've got grit. Like, it was just one of those great things. And one of the things that we are also telling students that actually is a quote from Annie Drews, who was on the U.S. women's volleyball team, who happened to play volleyball with one of our teachers, McKenna Carter. But anywho, she said in a lot of her interviews over the summer during the Olympics that they were playing gritty, not pretty. And so we talk about that a lot. So the Beatles are definitely not pretty. I'm not saying that Superintendent Robinson isn't pretty. That's not who it is. The Beatles are not. But we were gritty in holding the not pretty item. So I am so incredibly proud of our gritty BMS Bucks because I can't wait to see how this just continues to mold our culture. I tried to keep it shorter.
Congratulations.
Is that Bailey Westner that's sitting right there? Because she loves bugs.
No, that's a different sixth
Oh,
grader.
no, she's high school, never mind.
Yep, yeah,
Looks
but you
like
can
Bailey.
see there's another one where
Bailey.
I'm also freaking out, and her face is, she's cracking up. It's just, but I did it. But now I'm
You
not.
did
That was
it.
only
Good
one
job.
class period. I'm not going back to the other ones. Don't worry.
Bring
But any
bugs.
questions? Anything else? No.
Congratulations.
A contact with the Lions.
Okay.
Grandson was Lion Fan of the Year the
Oh,
first year.
nice.
So he
Let's
knows
try to
a
use
lot
it.
of the people in the office.
Great.
and
Well,
stuff.
hey, we need to connect because
I
I think that the Lions organization should see how they're impacting
Yeah.
Buchanan. Like, think about how far away we are. We're a tiny little community, not necessarily on everybody's radar, even though we're the kindest place in America. But I just think it'd be great. And how hard would it be to send a video?
Right,
30 seconds would be
Right,
great.
right.
right.
Thank you, everybody.
Cool.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Down the field and gain. Okay. All right.
Go Bates.
Lions victory. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Now we're going to have our audit presentation.
It's hard to follow that. It's hard to accounting. I love accounting. I know it's gritty, but it's really hard to follow. My name's Alex Schaefer, and I'm a partner at Kugel Lawton, and I'm the person who's responsible to oversee the audit that Hannah Petty and Allison Allman performed. I get to work with these amazing ladies, and they do a great job on your guys' audit. Last week, I went over in great detail with the Finance Committee talking about the audit. And actually, it was great because there's a lot of great questions asked. And we talked for about an hour, or maybe a little more than that. And I really love those conversations, obviously, because I'm a CPA, but also it just shows how much care that you guys have for the finances for the district. Because as you know, in these times, it's really important to keep an eye on the balance sheet and the income statement, make sure the money's being spent properly. What we did is a few years ago, I used to have that giant binder that had the whole audit, and I'd flip through it, and I'm a big guy, so we kind of dumbed it down to more of just a graph presentation of the binder, for that binder. So I'm just gonna go through the graphs, and basically what we did is we walked through the whole big balance statements in the Finance Committee, and the graphs are more just highlights of that meeting. On the first pages of the graphs is page 1 through 4. This is exactly from the audit. You say, Alex, why are you putting this in the graph presentation? Because when you hire a CPA like myself, we're the only ones in the state who can give an opinion on the financial statements. So what we did is we actually pulled out the opinion and we put for presentation purposes only because it's not in the audit package. When you guys see your final on the bound copy, it does not have that on there. That's just only in there because of the graphs. Now, I go through the audit report in a little detail because it is my report, my firm's report, and it's the only thing from Kugel Lawton. There's 2 other reports in the back there that have our firm's letterhead, but this is, like I said, why you hire a CPA like myself. So we come out with the first heading. It's called Report on the Audit of Financial Statements. Just so you know, what that is telling the user there's a Yellow Book audit. Every school district in the state of Michigan is required to be audited under the Yellow Book. So this is coming right out and saying, hey, even if you don't have grants or are not under the single audit, you're required to be audited on what they call the Yellow Book. What the Yellow Book is I have to look at material laws and regulations as an independent CPA. I'm also more qualified than most CPAs. I have to take a lot of CPE to do what I do. So we're more focused into governmental auditing. Starts out with an opinion. The opinion is the opinion that we gave during the audit. We're issuing an unmodified opinion, and we hear unmodified, you may say, Alex, what is that? It means these financial statements are materially correct, they have the required disclosures, and a third party should rely on them. Basis of opinion are standards I have to follow as an independent CPA. You may ask, why is governmental auditing standards italicized? That's once again emphasizing to the public that we have a Yellow Book audit. Your paragraph is responsibilities paragraph and management's responsibilities of the financial statements. My favorite page is page 2 of this graph presentation. This is my responsibility as an independent auditor. The standards, when they rewrote the audit opinion, they said, hey, let's go down and do a bullet point highlights of what we're responsible for. I have to be skeptical throughout the audit. I have to look at your internal controls. I have to look at the accounting policies and procedures for the district. And there's some other things that we do, but those are the main ones that I wanted to highlight. Page 3 is required separate information. In the big bound copies, there's some stuff that we are required by GASB standards that I follow that we presented to the public. One of those items is your MD&A. In the big bound copy, if a citizen comes and say, hey, I'm not an accountant, this stuff, I just want to read what happens. The management has written the MD&A, and what we do is we look at the MD&A to make sure it doesn't contradict what the audit says. So that's a good spot to go send if you have any citizens who want to read about the district. Another item that is required under GASB is called the budget to actual schedules. I have a graph on that I'll go over that. And then there's some pension OPEB schedules that were required when GASB 68 and 75 were implemented. Supplemental information paragraph, there's some combining funds. Major fund schedules in the back for non-major funds, but there's also this italicized area on here. What that's telling people is that the district experienced what they call as a uniform guidance audit. What that is the district spent over $750,000 of federal funds. So when that happens, we have to go to a grant-specific audit. So what we do is we test major programs, and then the major program we tested this year was ESSER. So we actually went in there and we looked at the major laws and regulations on that specific grant. In a couple of years, that revenue threshold or expenditure threshold is going to go up to $1 million. Next year, it'll still be $750,000. The last page is on page 4 of the audit report, is the other reporting required by governmental auditing standards. You might be on another board and you have an audit, and then there's an internal control letter that's outside the audit. In the Yellow Book audits, the internal control letter for the financial statement has to be in the opinion. It has to be in the reporting package. That's all that is. That's just telling people, hey, there's a letter back in the back for the financial statement audit that we talked about. There was no internal control segregation duties, or significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, but I'll highlight that later. But that is what that paragraph says. So as of October 21st, my firm is issuing an unmodified opinion. Once good, that's the top opinion that you can receive from a CPA like myself. Now let's go through the graphs. The first graph is your revenues by source. This is on page 18 of the large copy. Revenues for the district came in at $23,509,000. State sources were $17,519,000, or 74.5%. Federal sources this year were $2,307,000, or 9.8%. Property taxes were $2,780,000, or 11.8%. Now, the next graph is showing just a visual of the revenue for the last 5 years. We like to put this in here because, as you know, as a board, your revenues have changed in the last 5 years. Especially with COVID came out, there was a lot of grants like the ESSER grant that came in there that made federal revenues or expenditures more abundant. There's also the state revenues, just so you know, when you do receive state revenues lately, there's a lot of categorical revenues in those. Those are revenue sources that you receive that are restricted, that the district has to track independently. But this is just showing the revenue sources. In the last few years, it has varied a little just because of the influx of federal funds. This year, the reason why federal funds are so high is because we did spend the ESSER project, it was about $1.7 million that was spent. Page 7 is, now we'll go over to the expenditures for the general fund. Expenditures for the year were $22,614,000. If we look at the buckets, instruction was $12,703,000, or 56.18%. Support was $8,601,000, or 38.03%. And then we have pupil services of $1,274,000, or 5.64%. Now, now we said, hey, we just did revenue. Now let's do expenditures for the last 5 years. That's the next graph. You may see some variances between instruction and support. All that means is that, like this year, your ESSER expenditures were support. So you had a huge ESSER project that came in that was classified as support. So with those restricted grants, especially with the federal leaving, because those are one-time revenue sources that you have to spend, so in the future, your instruction will go up. And also, just a note on those ESSER projects, some of my clients may have used that for wages, which you're allowed to, actually, for this grant. I just want to compliment that you guys used it for a capital project, because if you used it for wages, which is great, now you have to go look at that revenue source that's 100% gone now, because it's dead. You're not going to get that money back, and hopefully we don't have another COVID situation. We can't predict the future, but it's good that you guys took those sources, even though you're allowed to use it for what you want. There was some stuff you couldn't use it for, but it was pretty open that the district elected to use it into capital projects. Next, page 9, as I talked about when I was going over the opinion, is the required separate information for the budget to actual schedules. That's on page 46 of the big bound copy. But this is a great RSI section to look at, hey, how are you guys budgeting? So as you can see, revenues were budgeted for $23,337,000. They came at $23,508,000, or about $170,000 variance. You say, Alex, $170,000, that's a lot of money. But on a $23 million budget, that's 0.63%. So just know it, it's very accurate budgeting. Then we have expenditures, which is harder to control. Expenditures are great because the board said, hey, management, you could spend this amount. Management was allowed to spend $23,025,000. However, management only spent $22,813,000, so they didn't spend their whole budget. And that's 1.7% of a variance. And then it shows your fund equity on the side, which I'll talk about in the next slide. The next slide is your fund equity comparison for the last 5 years. Just so you know that the fund equity ended up, this is total fund equity, of $5,203,000. It increased $895,000 from the previous year. But you can see as it's gradually going up. Page 11 is month's operations. So I go into and I look at, all right, what's all this mean? If I take your ending fund equity or the district's ending fund equity and I say, let's look at the percentage of operations, which was $22,614,000. We're at 23.01%. If we go now, take that number on page 12, and I times it by 12, I'm at 2.76 months of operations. And then if we go in there and say, Alex, that's fine and dandy, but on our balance sheet, we do assign some fund equity. So our unassigned fund equity now, if I do the same formula and do $5,203,000 of your unassigned equity, and do the same formula, we're at 19.34% of operations at 2.32 months. Remember now those operations have a large expenditure in there for ESSER, but also has a large revenue in there that you will not have next year. This just says, like, if make up that money didn't come in as of June 30th, 2024, the district would be operating for about 2.32 months, which is good. Last but not least, you say, Alex, why didn't you go here? Because you'd be done already. It's page 14. This is the highlight of the audit. This is actually from our audit. There's a page in our audit that describes this. So it comes into section 1 is the financial statement audit. We issued an unmodified opinion. Did we identify any material weaknesses? No. Significant deficiencies? None noted. You may say, Alex, why does that say not? Why can't you say no on that? It's because we don't audit everything. As you know, we audit test basis. We do sampling. So if we audit everything, we'd probably be out here we'd probably be your staff, all right? So that's why it says non-reported. Non-compliance material financials that need to be noted, because I remember I said this is a yellow book audit, so we looked at material laws and regulations. We had no findings in that. Federal awards now, material weaknesses identified, no. Significant deficiencies that are not considered to be material weaknesses, none reported. We're issuing an unmodified opinion on your federal funds, and we didn't have to disclose anything that's under uniform guidance. What your major program is this year is your Education Stabilization Fund. When I test that, we have to go to the compliance supplement, and there's actually compliance areas that direct us to where to test. We interview the client, and then there's a lot of compliance, not issues, but tests that we have to do during the audit. We look over the material laws and regulations for that. And also, if you're qualified as a low-risk auditee, that is a yes or no answer for the auditor. That is when, if a client is high risk, you guys are not. It doesn't mean they're a bad client. They just didn't, they kind of didn't meet the criteria of a auditee, high risk or low risk. And all that tells the public is how much I have to test as an independent auditor. I have to test 20% of your federal funds. So we don't test all of them. We just test your major program, which was the ESSER funds this year. Another thing I want to highlight real quickly is on page 26, or 27, note 3, there's a sinking fund. On top of all these great audits we do, we also do a sinking fund audit, which is required by law. We go in there and we look at the sinking fund expenditures and make sure that they meet what the ballot was. And we are also legal sinking fund expenditures. We didn't have any findings into that, and that note is just a template note, but it's telling the public, hey, on top of your other audits, you did experience a nice sinking fund audit. Also, as you noted, that I didn't have any material weaknesses. Some of my clients may have material weaknesses due to audit adjustments. We didn't have any. What that means is the stuff that you're getting from your finance department and your business office is accurate. Some of my other clients, they may get something, and then there may be an adjustment that we have to report, which that's telling the boards is like, hey, it was accurate except for these items. So to be proud on that. Carrie and the administration team did a great job during the audit. I also it's really you guys do a great job because you also hired Barron Reese to assist on the audit and during the counting. So doing that extra step is really good. During it gains a little comfort from the auditors, and also what gains the comfort is that I like to talk a lot, and I do talk to these people all year. So it's like I talk to my school clients a lot more than I do my other clients. I kind of wish I talked to my other clients more, but my school clients tend to reach out to me a lot more because, as you know from being on a school board, this stuff changes so much, and that stuff is vital for this process to make sure that we have a good audit, because you want to make sure on these standards that we're implementing or the district is implementing that they're done accurate, so we don't have adjustments on our audit, so you can avoid some of those findings. I did leave my business card for you guys, so if any of you want to talk to me more, which I'd be flattered to, you can go over this on these, just go over the statements or say, hey Alex, I want to know more about the compensated absences standard that's coming out or the new reporting model. I love this stuff, obviously, so I would more, and Allison Allman, actually, she would too. She's great to talk to. I'm very fortunate to be working with her, and we're available throughout the year, because that's our audit. Our audit style is to be more upfront than just seeing us for a few hours or a few days and then having me talk for 15 minutes. I know I just said a lot. You guys have any questions? We really appreciate being your guys' auditors, and we're really proud to be. One last thing we have to do is we're going to have to submit this to the feds, because you guys are under single audit. We'll be doing that with management. Management has to do the submission. We'll help them with that. And then with your guys' approval, we'll submit it to the state of Michigan, which is due by November 1st, as you know, to get your state aid, which is very important. Good?
Are we on?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, team.
Yes.
Wow, yeah. Looking good. Thank you to the whole team there, business team. All right, moving on to information reports and business. Let's go with the Finance Committee. Some feedback on your meeting?
Yeah, so I think that's me. So the Finance Committee did meet on September 23rd. It was Chris and myself. and Carrie and Brian and Trish. I think Katie had to miss that day, right? And Mr. Kurland, yep. And we really just talked about a little bit of a budget surplus and what options are available to us.
Okay, very good. Any questions, board members? All right, Curriculum and Program Committee?
I'll report on that. We met on September 26th, and the board members are Scott and Jenny and myself. We also were fortunate to have our instructional coaches of Kelly, Casey, and Tori. Mr. Kurland was there, Trish was there, and Phil, I think you were there as well. Yeah,
He was.
okay. We went over instructional information from the coaches involving Reveal Math and also Wonders at the 2nd and 5th grade level. And then we talked about the 6th and 7th grade with Amplify and Study Sync. I just want to say that I feel very fortunate that we have instructional coaches that can take us through this process, because otherwise it would be a formidable task for building principals or whoever would have to be involved with that. So we talked a lot about different things, SAT prep, bridges, transition gap, a lot of different things, and so it was a good meeting.
I loved hearing how much our coaches are working with the RESA staff to
Yes.
make sure that we're on top of it and using all the resources that are available to us.
Very good. No questions? Moving on to the board policy.
I think that's me again. So on October 1st, Dr. Burnett, Katie, myself, Trish, and Michelle met. I feel like that was maybe, I don't know if we did it in an hour, hour and a half. We went through, I know it was 400 pages. I don't remember exactly how many board updates it was. I feel like it was over 150. Many of them were just wording changes, changing the P on parent from uppercase to lowercase or vice versa. Just some language cleanup things that were all very standard updates. But this was our first time going through it with Troon, and they actually provide a video, which we went through, where the lawyers are actually explaining each of the updates and what all is included in that. So that's really helpful for us lay people trying to understand what that says.
Yeah, that part of the process, and Michelle, and I think I said this last time, but Michelle and Trish have done a great job of making this huge task much more manageable.
Correct.
And especially the video.
All right. Any questions? All right, Human Resources.
I can tell you that we met on October 2nd. Myself, Ruth, and Kelly, as well as Trish and Carrie. We went over the resignations, terminations, and retirements. New hires, which will be included in the consent agenda, as well as open positions that were still pending at the time. And then we had some discussion around grant dollars and staffing to go with those grant dollars to make sure that we're maximizing the utilization of those. Specifically, some of the conversation was around our SRO position and the nursing position. Nurse position, not nursing. Yes, we're not.
Yep. All right. Any questions? All right, moving on to Superintendent and Buck parent conversations.
Yep, so I held my first Buck parent conversation on October 2nd at Ottawa. And those meetings are really open office meetings that I take from here and go out into our district, and I sit and I wait and I just have myself available for parents or anyone to come in if they have a question, concern, thought, or just want to see me. I am there. So we'll announce the next one probably next month, or where I'll be next month. So.
Very good. Any questions? All right, Facilities Planning Committee.
Yes, we met on October 7th from the board, Kelly, Ruth, and myself. The district Trish, Carrie, and Mark. Mark does a great job of keeping us up to date at every meeting on the projects that he's both completed and has going. That's in his operations report in tonight's packet. It's a snippet from his, but just outline a couple of big ones that were sinking fund projects. Playground repairs was a big one at Ottawa. The Moxon Boiler Room facade, which we approved last month, is ongoing. It just started, I think. Restroom repairs at Moccasin, emergency lighting replacement in the hallways here at the high school. And there was some concrete work done out at the middle school, which was all paid for out of the sinking fund, which we appreciate the community support for that. We also discussed, which has been an ongoing discussion since my time on the board here, air conditioning, trying to finish it in the high school, and we may be getting closer to that in the future. And then the last thing was the facility study that Carmi has been working through, which looks like we may have the results from that in January to February, where they'll be able to come back and we'll be better able to allocate sinking fund dollars based on most pressing needs rather than guessing what we should be replacing first.
Good. All right, any questions?
I'd like to add that having air conditioning in all of the rooms of the high school, or, that was one of my personal goals when I became a board member 12 years ago, so I'm ecstatic. My work is done. Almost. By spring, we'll get there.
Not quite. All right.
Oh, gosh.
No rushing, but anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Finance Committee again?
Yeah, so that one, yeah, it's been busy. So that one was Chris and myself and Katie and Trish, and then the finance team, and I think Mr. Carlin was at that one as well. And we really just discussed with Alex the extensive audit report that we just looked through.
All right. Very good. And then Parent Advisory Committee.
Yep, the Parent Advisory Committee met on October 15th. That was our first meeting. I have 11 members this year. They were given an update around the district. I really shared that presentation that I shared with you guys in September with them. And then from there, we started talking about our areas of focus this year. And one of the areas of focus is MTSS, strengthening that up. Just making sure parents know how to receive access to all things MTSS, so that'll be our focus this year. And so my goal for them, I'll provide more information around what we are currently doing, and then they'll kind of feed back some information to me of how to beef it up based on parents' input. And then also I shared with them that we wanted to start it's really parent workshop series, but it'll go under like a parent university setting. So they were trying to come up with a kind of a fun name around it, but our first one will actually be, I'm gonna connect it to our November 12th safety meeting that Kelly Lesh and Harvey Burnett will help us run around safety, so.
All right. Very good. All right, moving on to J, public comment. And I don't have any public comment cards at this time. So we're going to move along to the adoption of the consent agenda. And maybe we have a motion for that.
I make a motion the Board of Education approves the consent agenda for the regular board meeting of October 21st, 2024 be adopted as written, including the minutes from the 9/16/2024 regular meeting, Warrants, the treasury and expenditure reports from September 2024, the dashboard from September 2024, the 2024-25 extracurricular contracts, teacher tenure for 2024-25 school year for Brandon Flowers and Kelly Smith. Recommendations to hire as submitted for Gina Peluchow, third grade teacher, David Sokolowski, ELA interventionist at Buchanan Middle School, Mindy Cooper, paraprofessional at Moccasin, Andrea Wilgus, behavior interventionist at Moccasin, employment departure of Allie Kiles, behavior interventionist at Moccasin, coaching recommendations for 2024-25 submitted for Ronald Hine, BMS boys track coach, Raylan Hines, JV men's basketball coach, and Daniel Libertowski, varsity women's basketball coach.
Support.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
Abstain.
You threw me off. Ms. Brackett?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Great, moving on to item L1, BEA letter of agreement. May we have a motion, please?
I make a motion the Buchanan Board of Education approves the following attached letters of agreement with the Buchanan Education Association, teacher evaluations, and Dawn Van Dyke.
Support.
Okay. Ms. Robinson, anything to add?
Yes, so the teacher evaluation, we did have to update that to include our preschool teachers as well, and then we did adjust moving away from MSTEP to NWEA because that was what we had been using, and based off of my conversation with the BEA president, we both agreed, and so there is the update there. And then Dawn Van Dyke is giving us support within our ECSE room until we're able to find another teacher to fill that position.
Very good. Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
I'm going to abstain again out of an abundance of caution.
Okay. Understand. Ms. Brackett?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
I'm also going to abstain out of an abundance of caution based on my relationship to a teacher.
Yes. And
Okay.
Dr. Burnett?
Yes. All right. L2, appointment to the Buchanan District Library Board. May we have a motion?
I move the Buchanan Board of Education appoints Grantlin Wagner to the Buchanan District Library Board of Trustees as the student representative.
Support.
Ms.
Is that
Robinson?
you?
That was-
Oh, thank you.
And Grant has served in this position before, so
Okay.
he's done well.
Very good. Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Brackett?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L3, curriculum adoption. May we have a motion, please?
I move the Buchanan Board of Education approves the following curriculum adoption: Reveal Math for grades 5 through 8, Algebra 1 and 2, and Geometry, and ELA Wonders for grades kindergarten and 1st and 5th grade.
Support.
All right, Ms. Robinson.
Yeah, I just ask that you support these curriculum approvals. Our ELA for 2 through 4 with Wonders have been in place for a couple years now, and so this will just make it continuous from K1 through 5th grade.
Okay. Very good. Any questions? All right, roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Brackett?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L4, the Troon Board Policy Update. May we have a motion, please?
I will make the policy, sorry. Make the motion that the board approves the following policies, which are all included in the July 2024 Troon policy update. I don't need to read them all, do I?
No.
Mark changes document, as well as policy 5802 student transportation update.
Support.
Support. Even though it's updated, is this supposed to be a first reading?
There isn't. No.
Okay,
With
there's no-
Troon, with Troon, you need to write. That was
Okay,
one
so
of
we don't have to, okay. Very good. Yes, I love that. Anyway,
Oh, we like
And we
that.
don't
huh?
have to do every single one of them itemized.
Yes.
We'd be here for a while if we
Yes.
were reading them all.
I know.
Yeah, I started to think that when I was reading it, and then I knew I didn't have to, but
No.
I second guessed.
No. All right, roll call.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Brackett.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item L5, student handbook update. Do we have a motion?
I move the Buchanan Board of Education approves the Buchanan Community Schools updated student handbooks for the 2024-2025 school year. Ottawa Elementary School Handbook and the Athletics Handbook.
Support.
All right, Ms. Robinson?
These are just yearly approvals. They've been updated and reviewed, and they're ready for your approval.
All right. Questions? Roll call.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Brackett.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item L6, the BVA graduation certificate, or certifications. Do you have a motion?
I move upon satisfactory completion of district requirements for high school graduation, the Board of Education hereby approves for Buchanan Virtual Academy students as follows: Connor Aguilar, Carol Kraus, Fatima Tuzora Zanib. For the Buchanan Step Up students, Arian Ferguson and Kylie Wheeler.
Support.
All right, Ms. Robinson?
Congratulations to our graduates, and to me, they actually show grit as
Yes.
they continue through this.
Yes, very good. Roll call.
Who supported that real quick? Sorry. Thank you. All right, Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Brackett.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item L7, contract approval. Do you have a motion?
I make a motion, the Buchanan Board of Education approves the snow removal contract for the 2024-2025 school year with affordable asphalt paving and bulldozing.
Support.
Okay, Ms. Robinson?
Yep, this is a yearly approval as well, as we're needing this to get ready for our upcoming winter season.
Hopefully later than sooner.
Snow. Roll call.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Brackett.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item L8, capital project fund resolution.
I haven't. I make a motion, the Buchanan Board of Education approves the following resolution, whereas Buchanan Community Schools is committed to providing high-quality educational facilities and resources to its students, staff, and community, and whereas there is a demonstrated need for improved infrastructure, renovation, and expansion of current educational facilities to meet the growing demands and standards, capital projects are essential to ensure the safety, functionality, and modernization of school buildings and facilities. It is in the best interest of Buchanan Community Schools to establish a dedicated fund for the purpose of financial capital projects. Now therefore be it resolved that a capital project fund shall be established and maintained for Buchanan Community Schools. The purpose of this fund shall be to accumulate financial resources to be used exclusively for capital projects, including but not limited to construction, renovation, and improvement of school facilities.
Support.
All right, Ms. Robinson?
This capital projects funds has been talked about for probably almost a year now, so we're ready to move forward and getting some funds moved into that account for our capital projects.
All right, very good. Roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Brackett?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to question and comments from board members.
A couple things, I just want to make sure everyone knows that the band is heading to preliminary finals this coming weekend up in Okemos. So best of luck to our marching band. And if you didn't see it at homecoming, they are sporting the new uniforms. I think they look very, very nice. I know we were at the competition last weekend, and we look right up there with all the others, if not even better. So good job to all those that worked to make that happen. That's been a long time in coming, and they look fantastic.
I have two things. One, I wanted to say a big thank you again to Mr. Pruitt and the high school for having the exchange students come. We do have large portions in, in America. After they said like 3 students, right, all of our exchange said how big our food portions were, I started taking note, and I'm like, man, are they really big? Like when I went out to eat and stuff, holy moly. So anyways, but I've also seen them out and about, and I think it's really cool that they introduced them to us so that we can then say hi and know who they are in our community and our school. So thank you for that. And 2, Friday at the school farm, we are having Fall Fest from 5 to 8. We're gonna have spooky stories in the schoolhouse and hay rides and free apple cider and donuts and just a little get together. It was to wrap up fall for the farm. It's our last week. This week is our pumpkin for the littles, and so we were just using that to get rid of some pumpkins. We don't know if we're gonna have very many, so we didn't have a lot grow this year. But it's just a wrap up and do a final for the fall at the farm, and then our spring is our plow day. So we were just trying to hit both ends of the farm, and it's very pretty out there right now. So anyways, just come take a check. It's free, there's no cost, and then some high school and Miss Reddick is gonna be reading and stuff. So anyways, come see us Friday, 5 to 8.
And just a shout out to Ottawa. They had a safety day, was that Friday before last, in our fire department, and had one of our new guys, recruits there to take care of the kids and talk to them and stuff like that. So that was a really good turnout for all of our kindergartners that day. So thank you, Ottawa, for that and coordinating that. So with that said, our next board meeting will be the 18th of November. And we stand adjourned.